Hello, happy Sunday. I hope everybody's having a fantastic day. Here in Louisiana, it is partly cloudy, but at least it's not raining because it's been raining like crazy, crazy, crazy. So today we're going to be talking about what's going on in Florida real estate. No, I'm not a real estate agent in Florida, but I lived there during the 2008 crash, and I have a little insight on what's going on there in some of these housing markets. We're also going to be talking about some other housing markets that are seeing some cracks in the foundation as well. We're also going to be talking about some social media posts that have been circling about foreclosure numbers, because not everything is what it seems on social media. Who knew, right? But first, before we get started, I want to say thank you and hello to Alex, Eric in the blue, and King in the city the first. You guys are the first ones to pop on the stream, and I wanted to say hello to you. And of course, my new favorite thing to do right now is to talk about real estate gossip. So without further ado, we're going to start off with some real estate gossip. And of course, it's with some real estate agents out of Florida, since we're talking about Florida real estate. All right. Hello, Michael. Hello, Lawnmower. Hello, Slide All Day. Hello. Kenneth Anderson, welcome. Overjoyed. Hey there. How are you? Okay. Realtors, I'm going to say it right because I get in trouble. Realtors arrested for allegedly defrauding a sick Ormond couple. So this lovely group of real estate agents have been accused and arrested of basically meeting with some older people that were in distress, not financially, but with their health. They trusted these people to help them with their rental properties and other properties. In turn, over time, what they did was they had them basically gave these real estate agents full power of attorney to do whatever they wanted, basically. So they started using this couple's credit cards to pay for lawyer fees. They started using their properties and for rental properties. They started they took, the worst part about it is because they had full, disclosure over everything. The guy was on life-saving measures, and they signed to make sure that those life-saving measures were removed from him. So he passed away. This couple is in trouble. They have not been, they've been arrested. They've been charged. They have not been convicted yet, but it doesn't look good in their favor accordingly. So the only reason I'm telling you this is whenever I share these stories, I want you to kind of look out, either protect yourself, protect your friends, protect your neighbors. If you see anybody that just seems to be all of a sudden getting really chummy that you've never seen before, hanging out with your neighbors, and they just seem to be taking over these people's lives, be nosy, because a lot of times when it's doing this, it's a form of elderly abuse, and I just want you to be looking out for family members, whether they're real estate agents or not. I don't want this to happen to anybody. They took advantage of this couple and they used their money, allegedly. I don't want to get in trouble, but they're you know what I'm saying. I'm just telling you, like, look out for your elderly in your area. It's, a lot of times people are older. They don't know how things work today. They're scared and they're nervous, and they put their faith and trust in people that they probably shouldn't. And no one should have that much control over an elderly person's life, especially when they're not family members. So look out for your family. That's all. I wanted to point that out. So that's this couple right here. Eddie, if you scroll down into the article a little bit, what'd you miss? This couple was, let's see. The couple chose Valiant as their realtor as both of the health began to decline. Records show that his license was revoked in 2018. 3 properties were placed under Valiant's control, the report says, as well as their bank accounts. Valiant said that they had to do not resuscitate order in one of the couples who died after being removed from life support the following day. That is sick. So I'm just saying, look out for your elderly, whether they're real estate agents or not. But every week I'm going to start sharing with you things that real estate agents have. I like the real estate gossip. So this was the newest thing, and it's since they were out of Florida. I thought I'd share this. Whenever I share this real estate gossip, it's always in a way to inform you, not just of things like this, but ways you can protect yourself if you find yourself in this situation. So anyways, Connie says, well, any kind of scammers could have done that, what they did. Of course, yes. The fact that they were realtors is almost irrelevant. Yes, absolutely. 100%. 100%. It was just that they were out of Florida, and that was the newest story that came out of Florida. Yep. 100% correct. Yes, it is very sad. Very sad. So without further ado, let's talk about Florida. Florida. What's going on in Florida, man? I don't know if you've seen the news, but it seems like there's some real estate markets in Florida that are doing horrible, according to the headlines. So just like anything, when it comes to any housing market, headlines are one thing because it gets people to click and buy newspapers and everything else. Whenever you're dealing with any real estate markets, whether that's in Florida, Louisiana, or anywhere else, always check with the local real estate agent in that area to find out what's actually going on. But according to Newsweek, it says Florida's housing market crash warning issued for 3 cities. So let's scroll into the article. As unsold properties pile up across the state, 3 Florida metropolitan areas are now at high risk of facing a housing market crash, according to a new study by information services provided by CoreLogic. Researchers at the company estimated that based on the January data, Florida's Winter Haven, Tampa, and West Palm Beach are among the top 5 U.S. markets to watch for in 2025 because they are at a very high risk with over a 70% chance to face price declines. I mean, how much is the decline, though? All right, why it matters. After years of booming, Florida housing market has experienced a slowdown as the influx of out-of-state newcomers has shrunk considerably since the pandemic, and affordability issues stand between aspiring buyers and dreams of home ownership. Blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, but that's everywhere. While the highest number of homes for sale in the state's market is giving buyers more options, stubbornly high mortgage rates are still hard at making it impossible for many to afford to purchase a property. As a result, for sale homes in Florida are sitting on the market for increasingly longer times on the market without going under contract, forcing sellers to make incentives, slash prices to attract buyers. What to know? Researchers at CoreLogic identify Winter Haven, Florida, Phoenix, Arizona, Tampa, Florida, Tucson, Arizona, West Palm Beach, Florida, as markets at the most risk for facing price declines this year. While the company did not detail why the most vulnerable markets are a few similar dynamics unfolding in these markets, especially ones in Florida. Former pandemic boomtown Tampa experienced a year-over-year price decline of 0.9%. 0.9% in January, according to CoreLogic, a drop of 1.6% between October 2024 and January. Okay, they're not going to say it, but we all know it, right? The prices went really high during the pandemic. Of course they did. Now they're way out of reach for a lot of people that are in that median price range. When prices go up that high, that fast, what happens? Property taxes go up. Excuse me, I have a cold. Property taxes go up really high. That means their individual payments go up extremely high. You have a bunch of people that live in condos along these areas, right? And they had special assessments, which some of them were $20,000 to $30,000 out of their pocket within 1 year. So you have a lot of those people saying, I got to sell. Some of them can't even sell because of those special assessments. Then you have a bunch of people that can't even get homeowners insurance. And the only way they can get homeowners insurance is the state funded insurance, which is super expensive. So a lot of these markets are facing this in Florida because of all of those factors. It isn't just like, oh, wow, this is, it isn't just the economy. There's a lot of things in order here that are causing some of these prices to drop. It isn't a crash just yet. I'm not saying that it isn't going to happen. And most likely, they are the top of the list right now of seeing the highest price reductions. But we saw like super high price reductions in Austin. Now that's slowing down. We saw super high price reductions in a lot of different states like last year, but now it's like cooling off. They're not reducing the price as much. Could that possibly change? Absolutely. Are we headed for a crash? If anybody has this magic, yeah, let me know. But I'm going to tell you, as it stands today, we still do not have enough supply for the amount of demand. The interest rates right now are still too high for a lot of home buyers. Home sellers are not willing to give up on their 2.5%. So the lack of supply, and we're going to end up more in a stagnant market. That's what I continue to say. Unless the jobs market starts tanking and people are being forced to sell. Now, this is the other thing I want to talk to you about, because I've seen this social media post coming out, and it's about the foreclosure rate. And people are all up in arms, and even real estate agents have been posting this. So I want you to go ahead and put that up on the screen, please. Eduardo, please. No, that's not the post. I want the social media post, please. I'll put it up. All right. So this is a social media post that came out. It says 6.1 million Americans are behind on their mortgage. That's the highest in 20 years. Brace for impact. What you're not seeing in this post is this has to do with multi-family homes. Like, it's not single family housing. This is not the same numbers. So Eddie, now show that other article that came out, please. The one that you were showing earlier. All right. So these are the states that have the highest foreclosure rates. Of course, again, there's Florida, right? Insurance, hard to get. Taxes, really high. Prices went really high. They're number 10. They're number 10 right now in foreclosures. The number 1 is Delaware. Number 6 is New Jersey. South Carolina, 1 in every 3,547 homes is in some kind of foreclosure process. Connecticut is 1 in every 3,542. Indiana's 1 in every 2,459. And to this day, we still are not at the pre-pandemic levels for foreclosures, even with you seeing some of these headlines. Some states may be in that area right now, but it's not a foreclosure crisis, not yet. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, but what I'm saying is that everything is leveling out to where it used to be prior to the pandemic. So I just don't want you to get too excited about these headlines, especially if you're waiting for some kind of housing crash so you could be able to afford a home. You have to really pay attention to what's going on in your individual market. Utah is 1 in every 3,251 are in some kind of foreclosure process. Another thing to be aware of, if you're in the pre-foreclosure process, it can take years before that house is ever on the market as a viable foreclosure for you to buy. And everybody knows, as much as I freaking can't stand them, that institutional investors, you know what they do is they go to these banks that they see that they have a bunch of distressed properties, and the banks will bundle up all of those properties into one package. And then the big banks, Wall Street investors, will buy them. Places like Homes for Rent, or, any of those companies that rent out housing, they buy all of these houses in bulk, even if they're some of them are really high end or some of them are really low end and junk. They don't care because they get them in a mass bulk at a good price, and then they buy them. So they never even make it to the regular market for you to purchase. So, we have a long way to go before we ever see a crash. That's going to take time before that ever happens. With that being said, I just wanted to put that out there. Multifamily, yes, meaning more like duplexes, triplexes, like mini condo buildings, apartment buildings, multifamily units. Douglas says, question, do you still feel like mortgage rates will be in the high 7s for 2028? I'd say 5.8 average mortgage for 2025, which may be too high. 7 for 2028. I don't know what, I can't predict all the way 3 years from now. But in 2025, I think we're going to just be staying pretty much where we're at. I don't think we're going to be going much lower than this. The thing is like I've said before, I talk to people that are not, printing out, articles for people to click on. And they said that a lot of money that was invested into the stock market is now going into, a lot of their investors is going into the bonds market. And that could reflect some changes into what happens with interest rates. I have yet to have seen that happen on, from a black and white standpoint. So we'll see. They say they over there, I'm not saying this, but what they have been telling me is that they think that interest rates for mortgages are going to come down some. I'm like, how much? They're like, unsure. So, everybody's at this kind of like, we don't know, because everything keeps changing every single day. So something with tariffs comes out, it reflects the markets, and then the markets react, and then interest rates react. We only know so much. Yeah, it's 6.65 right now. 6.65. It's pretty average across the United States. That is correct. 15-year ARM is under 6%, though. Not many people can afford a 15-year ARM unless you've already had a property ahead of time. Thank you, Ezra. I appreciate that. I saw that come up on the screen. Thank you. Thank you. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to do that in the chat. We do not have any phone calls today, but if you want to leave a phone call message or a question for next week, you can always do that. That's 888-255-0197. That's 888-255-0197. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Overjoyed said, Florida legislator was quick to drive us into this situation. No hurry to help seniors on fixed incomes to afford assessments with low interest loans. I think that a lot of people are waking up to the idea that sometimes that our elected officials aren't in it for us, and that was reflective on a lot of different things that have happened, not just in Florida, in Louisiana as well. And it's been unilaterally that some of these policies, people are like, you know what, that sounds like garbage. We're not going to vote for that. I think that we can put our feet to the fire and start poking these people, because you know what? Even though they were elected back in November, some of them are up for a re-election really soon. So I think this is the time to start poking the bear and saying, hey, what are you going to do for us? And start getting loud about it. That's all I'm going to say. Just Cruising Mom says, I took out condos and mobile homes out of my total amount of homes for sale here in my county in Florida. Then I removed all the homes over 400,000, and wow, there's hardly any homes for sale in my county. And you know what? That is a very good indicator to realize the health of a market, because I will tell you, this is something I stand by, and I've stood by from the time that I've been in real estate. What always drives a market is first-time home buyers, right? And most of the time when first-time home buyers, first time buying the home, what are they trying to do? They're trying to find the best house they can for as little money as they can, right? And most areas, even areas that are supposedly, crashing in price, you look at those homes that would be considered first-time homes, and they're hard to find, very difficult to find. When those homes are on the low end, they're very, very, very hard to find. And like, I hate when people say, it's because young people are too picky. If they weren't so picky, then they would be able to buy a house. Give me a break. Some of these areas that have the houses for like $220,000, the only thing that's holding it up is the termites, like really honestly. Just be honest with what's going on in your market. And lower end homes always sell faster, right? Because there are so many people that are waiting to be able to afford a home. If you look at a house that's on the lower end that's been on the market for a very, very long time, that usually means that there's been people that put up offer in it. And I'm just saying, I'm not saying all the time. I'm just saying what it usually means is that they have a type of loan that will allow them to mortgage it because it has some kind of issue that won't allow for that type of mortgage. FHA does not allow for every type of house to have a mortgage with it, right? It has to meet certain standards. And if a lower end house has been on the market for a very long time and you couldn't find a buyer for that low end price, it's either overpriced or it has some issues. So just, just to let them know that. Heading for a crash. What's that? That's what the airline pilot asked. Oh no, that's bad. Charlton. Lee says, market can't crash unless there's a mass unemployment. Too much demand, I suspect. Yes. But did you know, I saw this in an article, in the average age of the home buyer today, the average age of all home buyers today. Do you know what it is? I'm going to let you guys guess. I'm going to let you guys guess. I might have said this in a previous stream, so you might guess really quickly. But the average age of not just first-time home buyers, but the average age of the home buyer today. I want you to put your guesses in the chat. My throat hurts so bad. Eddie gave me his creeping crud. I got the spring sickness. 45. Nope. MH08. 57 years old. 57 years old. Closed. That means like closed houses, homes that have closed. The average age of the home buyer today is 57. Insanity, right? I saw that in an article. I sent it to my brother because I'm like, because it was actually up 6 years from a year prior. It was up 6 years from the year prior. It was like 42 or something, 47, somewhere it was in the 40s. They were in the 40s and now it's 57. So 80. Well, that isn't probably too far off. Yeah. Yep. Oh, I heard on the news last week. Yeah. Debbie Brady said she bought her first house with help at 26. I bought my first house. Well, how old was I, Eddie? I was either 27 or 28 when we bought our first house. And my brother, my favorite brother, helped me out. He did. Yeah. Yeah. He heard it on the news last week. It's expensive to buy a house and people need help buying a house today. And the cost to buy a house is such a luxury. And I'm at a point I'm like, why is buying a home to buy shelter for yourself such a luxury? And big investors are buying up more pieces of land. And that's why I'm trying to encourage people to buy yourself a piece of land and get something that you can live on so you don't have to be dependent and be a renter for the rest of your life. That I'm going to encourage people to do that to the day I die. That is not the type of real estate that would make a real estate agent a ton of money by any means of the imagination. It's not about that for me. It's about people being independent from trying to pay institutional investors for the rest of their lives and never have any kind of equity building by renting. You never do. There's no equity building in that. And even if you bought a piece of land and did a little bit of improvements on it, that's still better than renting, in my opinion, especially with the price of rent today. That you remember then they said last year at this time, rents are going to come down by tons. Yeah, they haven't done that yet. Two of my daughters purchased a house outside of San Francisco Bay Area. Wow. One daughter purchased a house in Monterey and the other one purchased a house in Elk Grove, California. That's amazing. Good for them. I'm proud of them. They should be proud of themselves. It's fantastic. You guys have a question, just make sure you put a question first in the chat. And so Eddie can put it up on the screen. Just type out the word question and then you can put them on the screen. Even if you have a little comment you want me to read out loud, I will do that as well. You can just put the word comment and I'll read it out loud as long as it's not disgusting. Champlain Towers was a once in a lifetime event. Now every condo owner is in jeopardy of losing their home because of one building was faulty construction and deferred maintenance. I remember reading the story about that. If you guys don't recall, so this whole thing started with Florida and their condos because of one building that collapsed out of nowhere. And the knee-jerk reaction was, okay, we need to fix all these things. But the problem all comes down to there was inspectors that went to that condo association several times telling them to fix these items, and they didn't do it. And so again, the knee-jerk reaction from the community, the public, everybody that doesn't live in condos was start making them be up to snuff, start making them do these things and get this up to code for today. And so what had happened was the people that have lived in these condos for 20, 30 years, they get a bill in the mail that, they've been paying their condos association fees for years. And then they get a bill for, $10,000 for roofs for a special assessment. Oh, they didn't have enough fire hydrants. That's going to cost another, $3,000 for your assessment. Oh, we need to have new sidewalks because they're not wide enough. Because they're not ADA compliant because this was built in 1957. Now that's going to be another, $5,000. And some of these people, like I said, have lived there for 30 years. They're on fixed incomes. They don't have this money to give to the homeowners association. I saw one guy, he's like, I'm going to have to go back to work because I got a loan so I could pay my assessments because I have nowhere else to go. Because if I was to sell, I can't sell it because of all these assessments that are on my house, that are on my condo. It's really terrible. Just Cruisin' says, I think Florida was doing so much better till all the insane tornadoes. There are senior programs for condo assessments. I didn't know about those senior programs. I'll have to look that up. I didn't know anything about that. I think the Florida thing, it isn't just tornadoes. I think it's, well, everybody knows it's hurricanes as well, right? Eddie and I lived in Orlando during Hurricane Charlie. That was the last hurricane we went through before we moved to Louisiana. And that was unprecedented. Like they never have hurricanes that go through the middle of Orlando. And, the hurricanes are getting more often. They're getting stronger. They're causing more damage, more flooding. We've been here in Louisiana and we've seen some storms that were never even named hurricanes. They were just storms that caused massive flooding here in Louisiana in 2016. And no one could have predicted that 30 years ago. I mean, even though they talked about it, you don't believe it until you see it for a lot of people. And some of those condo associations, I do blame them in a way because they were like, oh, well, we don't want to raise them up too high. We're going to upset the residents. And yeah, probably they should have raised some of their association fees over the years, but not to the point where it was going to cost residents $30,000. I really sympathize and empathize with them. And I hope they do have programs for seniors so that they don't have to go back to work so they can pay those assessments. It's terrible. Terrible. Charles says, question. So you don't see rates falling below 5 anytime soon? I personally, this is my personal opinion. This is just my opinion. I don't see that for this year. I think we're going to stay in stagnant territory. We're going to be between 6 and 7 throughout this year. That's what I think. I could be dead wrong, but this is my crystal ball prediction. That I'm not an economist, but my feeling from year to year, I've always been pretty good about knowing this, what my feelings of my gut has been telling me. I was right whenever it was last year as well. So, and matter of fact, there was a show that was on, there was a show called This Week in Real Estate. Ray Allen does that show, and they did a prediction of what interest rates were going to do for 2024. They're like, all right, we're going to, this is the end of 2023. What are they going to do in 2024? We're going to play who plays closest to the pin. And so I guessed my prediction, and I was the closest. I was 0.01% off. I was the closest to the pin. And we have that game too here. So I have actually everybody's name down for what the interest rates are going to be next year at the end of 2025, what they'll be. So we'll figure out who's going to be a winner. And I have one of these cups. I have a couple of these cups left. So whoever's closest to the pin from that show gets to win one of those. Yep. Sorry. Like I said, Eddie gave me his creeping crud, the icky sticky. I'm sick if I'm not drinking hot tea right now. Oh, yep. Yes, we're very happy for your girls. Yes, I'm sure you are. I'm sure you're very happy for them. My daughters are panicked that they'll never be able to afford a house. My youngest says that she wants to she thinks she wants to live outside the United States. She's looking at more like, I don't even know where she's wanting to go, but she's a physicist in quantum physics major. So not obviously that the smart genes skipped a bloodline and went to her. So Lawnmower says, hit that like button or YouTube will resonate the minimum height requirements for asking questions in the chat. Lawnmower likes to say my coffee cups are not big. I'm just really small. Yes. So are French Canadians pulling out of Florida, tariffs causing real estate problems? So if you listen to the news that's coming out of Florida, they don't make much mention of it. But I happen to listen to news from around the world. And according to the Canadian news, that a lot of people in Canada are saying, you know what, we're going to halt our vacations and we're going to go ahead and sell our houses. That is, they are saying that in Canada. And according to Realtor.com, Canadian snowbirds are canceling their Florida trips and offloading properties amid the tariff war. Yep. For years, Canadians seek warm respite of the cold weather. Canadians make up about 13% of all foreign investors, buyers in the United States, with a market size of $5.6 billion, according to the 2024 report. The National Association of Realtors. Among those buyers, Florida is the most popular destination, with around 41% of all Canadian buyers purchase in that state. I did not know that. Back when I was a hairstylist a billion years ago. God, how many years ago was that? 20 years ago? 21 years ago? Anyways, I had a bunch of Canadian clients. Yep, a bunch of them. They were snowbirds that used to come down for the winter in Florida. But according to some publications, they say that they're selling because of the tariff war. Kendra says, question, who do we contact in our government to complain about the companies that are buying up affordable housing? Who has the authority to pass the laws against companies being able to do this? Oh, I'm going to tell you how to go super granular, right? If you happen to live in a neighborhood that has an HOA, I'm going to tell you how to start the smallest. If you have a development that has an HOA, you can have in your next meeting propose to have your amendments in your or your covenants in your HOA revised, so only X amount of homes in your neighborhood can be sold to LLCs and investment companies. So you can start just in your neighborhood first, right? Then you can start going to planning and zoning meetings and start putting out proposals to them, asking them to address that issue, especially if it's a big issue in your specific area. We have one neighborhood here that before anybody was even talking about investors, I think like 45% of that neighborhood was bought by investors. Most of it ended up being rental properties. And so then they ended up having to revise their HOAs to stop allowing for that. So when the investors decided to sell, they had to sell it to somebody that wasn't going to use it as a rental property because there was just too many in that neighborhood. Next, you can go to your state and meet with your state elected officials and start talking to them about putting limitations on how many LLCs and investment firms can buy in certain areas, all the way down to your county, your city, your town, all the way up on the national level. But I want to be very clear. They have made bills out there. They're sitting in Congress right now, waiting to be voted on. But a lot of that is just lip service, because you and I know that a lot of these campaigns are made by the same companies, bought by the same companies that they're putting these bills against. So they do these bills to make the public, you and me, feel good. Like, oh, we're going to stop Wall Street investors. Look at this bill that I just proposed. But you know, that will never hit the House floor. It will never be voted on. But it helps the person making those bills look like they're doing something while they're in Congress, knowing damn well it never be voted on, knowing that. But on the local level, you have a lot more power to control that than in a high governmental power, right? So that's what I would tell you to do. That's what I would tell you to do. C. Brown says, what part of Florida is that the housing market is dropping in price? So they said Miami, what was it? Tampa, Winter Haven, right, Eddie? If you can pull that article back up. Covenants, yeah. Yeah, Winter Haven, Tampa, West Palm Beach are very high at risk. Those are the ones that are dropping, according to realtor.com. Because if I say it realtor or realtor, if I say it wrong, man, I get a bunch of guff. So I'm realtor. I'm saying it right. Just cruising mom says, yes, hurricanes were really bad, but they are more located in certain regions of Florida. The tornadoes, we had over 600 of them go through before the hurricane, and they devastated communities all over. And you're right. Every insurance company handles it a little bit differently as far as tornadoes from hurricanes. Sometimes, even though it was a tornado, because it was a part of the hurricane, they still make it as your deductible for your hurricane deductible on your insurance. Like I said, they handle it a little bit differently in each state. Because when I was back in my day, when I lived in Florida, if a tornado was spun off from a hurricane, it was still considered hurricane damage because it was a named storm, and that's what caused the tornado in the first place. But that may be different now. King in the city, the first says, question, where's all the lottery money that's supposed to be helping seniors? Every state handles their lottery money a little bit different too. So I want to know where all the lottery money is that was supposed to help schools here in Louisiana. I think we're like rated 47th or 48th as far as education in Louisiana. I mean, there's the top, it was over $1 billion that the top lottery winner was going to get. Where did all that money go, man? I want to know. You're right. Where does it go? Who has a line item for that? Where can we see the numbers for that? You're right. Where is that lottery money? Where is it? There's lots of stuff that, like, we have assessments for roads. You know, everybody here in Louisiana wants the roads fixed. We vote to have the roads fixed. Sure enough, after that election, you see one little state road get fixed or one little county road get fixed. And then after that, all the other roads start falling apart. And then the road that we fixed 5 years ago is now falling apart. Like, what are they doing with that? I will say, when I lived in Florida, man, the roads were pretty darn good. But here in Louisiana, they are the pits. They are the absolute pits. I don't know of a person that's had a car for more than 3 years that does not have a crack in their windshield. And here, I know in Florida, you can get your windshield replaced because it's part of your insurance. I don't know if it's still that way, but here in Louisiana, oh no, you got to pay that out of pocket, and it's not cheap. Those windshield places, man, they make some good bucks. And you can't get your inspection sticker from any kind of crack or chip or anything in your windshield, even if it's just a little tiny, like little thing. That's it. No inspection sticker for you. You're gonna have to do it again. Got to get a new windshield every single time. Peter says, are you going to have realtors on your real estate show when there are real estate transactions to talk about? Yeah. I was trying to get a real estate agent in today from Florida, but everybody seemed busy today. There's lots of people showing houses. The spring market has sprung. I think it's going to be a little bit more of I don't think it's going to be a buyer's market. I don't think it's going to be a seller's market. I just think it's going to be a very even market. And I don't predict home prices in a lot of these areas to scoot up really high. Especially in the South, but I don't think they're going to, I don't think the rug's going to be pulled out from underneath them either. So unless interest rates go really up. John Mackey has a question, but he just has a question. He just wants us to know he has a question. Mona's question is, if rates come down with the recession, don't you think that investors will still drive prices higher? I don't see how prices could come down. Well, I'm talking like big time investors, they have like the inside scoop, right? So if they have it in with, let's just say Bank of America, I'm just giving an example. I'm not saying that they do, but let's just say they do. And Bank of America has a giant pool of foreclosed properties that is sitting on their books. They can go to them and say, hey, we'll get these off your books. You have, $105 million in assets that are foreclosed properties. We'll buy that debt from you for, $80 million. So we're going to buy that from you. You're going to take the loss, but we'll get that off your hands and it will no longer be on your books. And the banks take it because they're like, I don't want to have to take care of these properties. We don't want to have to maintain these properties because it's a pain in their butt. Because the whole foreclosure process is not cheap. It has to go through the courts. They have to service the houses. They have to make sure they're maintained. They have to put antifreeze in the pipes. They have to send inspectors out there all the time to make sure that the house hasn't burned down. It's a weight on the bank. So they're willing to just hand them over. But if there's a problem with the job market and people are losing their jobs and they get in desperate situations, you saw what happened in 2008. The people that were in the most desperate situations, they were willing to take huge price cuts to the point where all the equity they got in their house, they were willing to do short sales just to get rid of the house. And, if prices really wanted to tank, imagine if all the investors decided, you know what, we're just going to flood the market with all of our rental properties and vacant properties that are sitting on the market. And we're going to just flood the market right now. Well, that will make home prices drop really quick. Because if you woke up tomorrow and say there was only 100 houses for sale yesterday, and now overnight or over a week or even over a month, there's now 2,000 houses for sale and none of them are selling. What does that do? It makes the little guy go, oh my gosh, I have all this competition. And then it forces them to drop the price of their houses. That's basically what happened in 2008. I mean, so many people were desperate. They had to put their house on sale or for sale. In Florida, this happened, and Eddie and I saw it with our own two eyes. There was no houses for sale. It was like somebody turned off the light switch. And the next day I saw for sale signs everywhere, all over the place. One house was an open house every single day for 5 months. And it got so bad that there wasn't even a real estate agent in the house. They just had balloons and a sign and the doors open. So you could just walk right through the houses. They could not get those houses sold. It just happened overnight. And, then investors just started scooping them up, buying them up like nobody's business. And then they turned them into rentals. It was crazy. That was a weird time. Eddie's going to show this. Education. The quality of the community schools can be central to the family's aspirations. All through public education as a large local matter for school boards and states to allocate schools funding, and federal government has played a large role in the past decades. No child left behind. Why are we showing this, Eddie? Is this about the lottery? Get some clarifications before we understand what's going on the screen here. Can we hear from you?
Education in general.
Oh, well, I don't want to talk about that. It has nothing to do with our, it doesn't have to do with real estate. Don't have to do nothing with real estate. I'm not talking about this. I'm not talking about it. Eddie, get it off the screen. He wants to show where we are he wants to show where we're at. Yeah, we're 47th. I knew I was right. I was close. I said 47th, I thought. 49th in higher education. Yeah, I knew. That lottery money ain't coming to Louisiana for helping you with education, that's for sure. John Mackey says, question. Would paying for more for a co-op in Florida urban environment be better purchase over a unit in a senior condo community away from an urban environment? I want you to be there. It won't help with the special assessments because that's a statewide thing. The second thing is that when you're in a more urban area, you're closer to things like medical care, and the medical system in Florida is strained as it is, and you don't want to be far away. My parents, this happened to my parents, they lived in Crystal River. I don't know if you know where that is, but it's pretty far away from a lot of major medical things that they needed to have done. And let's talk about surgeries like hospitals, cancer treatments, those kinds of things. They can get anything done in that little area, that non-urban area, like regular medical exams and x-rays and that kind of thing. That was fine. But when something majorly medical happened to them, they had to drive to Tampa. And that made it so they had to drive over an hour, sometimes in traffic. So it took over that amount of time just to get healthy again. So, you have to put that into consideration, especially when you're elderly. If you're going to live in a more rural or non-urban area, how far away is that from the hospital? Got to put it all in perspective. Condos are great because of the amount of maintenance you don't have to have, especially if you're elderly. The downside of condos is that those special assessments can come up at any time. Those HOA fees could happen at any time. Co-ops to me, a better option, especially because you can vote on these things, but it has to have cooperation of every resident so you understand what is happening. And most people don't want to spend the time to be a part of that. They're just like, tell me how much I owe and I'll pay it, But yeah. Smoosh Star says, question, yesterday, housing analysis Lance Lambert said he is looking into VA loans being just like Wall Street Journal story of how the government paid people's loans to prevent foreclosures. What the hell? What the hell? I'll have to look at that. I have not seen that article about that at all. Eddie screen. Excuse me. I'm going to screenshot this because I'm going to look this up right after the stream because I want to read the article. If there's an article about it or something, I took a picture. This is how I remember stuff. and when I'm in bed, I'm like, oh, what is all the things I had to remember? And that's when I sit with my computer. So yeah, I'll look into that. VA loans are great as a great product though. And I don't see how like Wall Street has anything to do with VA loans. Now, if they privatize Fannie and Freddie, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but they're talking about privatizing Fannie and Freddie once again. And the reason that they have been under a conservatorship, much like Britney Spears, is because they were giving out kooky loans before the 2008 crash. And to give them a little slap on the hands, we now babysit them and they're no longer a private lending institution. Well, they don't like that. They don't like being told that they can't, make crappy loans for people and get them in bad financial situations. And they want to be privatized once again. I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's good that we have a little eye on top of them, make sure that they're doing not sneaky loans, right? But they want to be privatized again. We'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. Fannie and Freddie Mac. Whenever I hear Fannie, I always think, I'm like, that's a funny name, Franny. Who's up first says, question, Canadians have a housing problem. Yes, and they've had it for many years, just like the U.S. How do you think U.S. tariffs will affect a Canadian housing? In Canada's elbows up counter tariffs and actions, Canadians are fed up. Well, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of the wood that we use to build houses here comes from Canada. And so the cost to build a house, if the tariffs actually do go through the way they've been proposed, because they propose them, then they pull them back, then they propose them. I don't know. Every day we don't know. And so a lot of builders know that there's this uncertainty when it comes to these tariffs, right? So a lot of builders have decided they're not going to build as many homes this year because they don't know what they're going to be paying, because they don't know what to charge the buyers, because in the process, who knows if those tariffs go in and now they're going to have to increase the cost of the house in order to be able to make money at the back end of the house once it's sold. Every component of a house, not all of it is the country of origin is where it comes from. Like, you get your bricks from, let's just say, Germany. Your drywall does come from Germany. Your wiring, let's just say, comes from China. Your gypsum mud comes from Turkey. Like, all these things cost money. If you continue to add a tariff to all these little tiny things, that's all it's going to do is drive up the cost of building a house. And when you drive up the cost, that's all that does is make the consumer have to pay more for those houses. So, in Canada, one of the biggest things that they have is the wood. They own the wood. That's where we get the wood to build the houses. I don't know how it will affect the housing market, but they've had a problem with their housing market way, way before the pandemic. They had a lot of foreign investment and investment companies buying up houses, even leaving them vacant just to have them. One province decided they were going to tax vacant houses, and I'm not opposed to that. If you're just holding on to a piece of property just to hold on to it, to sell it later down the road, and it's just sitting there, you should be taxed, the vacant property tax. On Fifth Avenue, there's a bunch of apartment complexes, full-on buildings, completely vacant, one right after another, because it actually makes them more money to keep it vacant than to actually have people in it, because they had like some kind of vacancy thing. But they're on their taxes, they can say, well, we couldn't find enough renters to be able to afford the rent in this area, so they keep it vacant. All of this needs a full-on enema. I don't think that vacant properties should be able to stay vacant, and investors shouldn't get a tax break because they're vacant. I think they have to have people in them in order for them to make money. They shouldn't make more money off of keeping it vacant than they do full of people, especially when there's so many people trying to find affordable housing. It's totally twisted. Cookie loans, yummy. Your tariff music video was very helpful, by the way. Oh, you guys ever, Eddie, I don't know if you can pull it up on there, but I made a music video in one of my last videos I put out, and I did it to explain what would happen with tiny homes if you were to buy them on Amazon, because a lot of times they come from a different country. And so if you were to buy, and this happened to a friend of mine, she bought something from a foreign country. She got it in the mail. It only cost her $6, but then they added tariffs to it. She actually got a bill with it that said that she had to pay this tariff in order to get the product. It ended up being the tariff, or the cost and the shipping and everything ended up being more than what the product was that she bought. So that could happen if you're buying a tiny home from overseas, by the way. So if you're going to Alibaba or Amazon, they used to have the prices on there. Now they say you have to call the manufacturer in order to get the true price of the house, because what it's listed is not necessarily what you're going to actually pay because of tariffs. So I did a music video on that. Eddie, do you want to show him the music video? I don't know if he's going to show it or not. It's pretty funny.
Found a tiny home online from China. What a deal, so fine. But wait, don't cheer, don't pop that cork, 'cause here comes something called a tariff fork. It's a fee, it's a financial sting, makes your wallet cry and sing. You thought you bought a budget price, now the cost takes you by surprise. Oh, the red tape, it wraps you tight. Customs leaves you in the night. You paid for dreams, they seem so clean, but now they're stuck in bureaucracy's machine. It's a fee, it's a
financial bling. That little 1 minute video right there, I edit all my videos myself. That little 1 minute video took me 3 hours to edit. Yes. And I wrote the lyrics to that song too. Yeah. So yeah, that's the simplest terms of tariffs. The country of origin does not pay for them. The shipper does not pay for them. You, the consumer, pays for the tariffs. I just wanted to make that clear. Marcus says, do you know if any wood electrical pole in a backyard is safe to live? And does it impact the sales price? Do you know if a wooden electrical pole in the backyard is safe to live with? And does it impact the sales price? So I have a wooden electrical pole. We have several of them. I think that would be something that would be, if it's not conducive to the area, like if everybody has buried lines and you have a wood pole, that could cause a price differential. I would talk and consult with a real estate agent in your area. And if you're worried or concerned that the electric pole is not safe, I would go out and ask an electrician to go out to the property and say, hey, is this up to code and is this legal and is it safe? I would go talk to them. Fake news, Virginia will take a loan over 3% to prevent veterans to be homeless.
VA.
Oh, thank you. Fake news, VA will take over a loan at 3% to prevent veteran homelessness. Well, that's good to know. That is good to know. You know, a lot of times, you know, you take this for what it is. Anything you hear on social media is, I would never just take my advice. I would never just take the advice of one person that you listen to. I would listen to anything that anybody has to say as far as the housing market is concerned. And then if you're really interested in that, investigate a little bit deeper, right? Not everything I say should be put in stone, right? I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that you got to weigh it all out. You got to weigh it all out. And I don't know everything that's happening in your individual market. There's no way I could know, right? So find out from local experts. You know, a lot of times, especially like I see it on Twitter and I see it on Facebook, a lot of people are looking for the click, right? They love those clicks. It gives them some adrenaline to get those clicks. So they put out posts like, oh, look, 6.1 million people are underwater with foreclosures. Look at this chart. But they leave out the very important fact that those were multifamily units, not single family units. They also left out the important fact that we're still not at foreclosure numbers prior to the pandemic. So causing this kind of like reaction out of the crowd, like where people get nervous and scared, it's so unnecessary, so incredibly unnecessary. So I always suggest whenever you see something like that doesn't feel right, look for yourself, because sometimes they're just looking for it just so you stay on their page and, you know, whatever. The Smooch Star says, question, Wall Street Journal broke the story about FHA loans being paid for by our taxes. What the hell? Daniel DiMartino Booth, advisor of Dallas Fed, also talked about the Wall Street Journal article about FHA. Now, the VA, not cool. Not cool. Well, I'll have to dig into that a little bit further. I'm not a mortgage person. Like I'll talk about rates, but I don't know anything about mortgage products, especially when people ask me about their individual product needs. I don't touch that with a 10-foot pole because I'm not licensed to do that. But this I will look into. Eddie, can you pull up that article? You can find it. Oh, I hope it's not behind a paywall. I hate that when they do that with articles. Oh, you can. Here's this really catchy article that's going to get your attention, but you're going to pay us, $15 a month to read our online articles. All you have to do with that, by the way, if you ever see one of those, is copy the headline and then put it in Google search again. Guaranteed Yahoo News is taking that same exact article and republished it, not behind a paywall. Love that. Let's see if Eddie's looking for it. I can see him looking for it behind the screen. Excuse my, I keep drinking this because it's like the only thing that's coating my throat. I'm so sorry. I think Eddie found something. I think he found something good. All right, back to tea. My hot tea is now cold tea, but whatevs.
Yep.
All right. Government mortgage relief is no cash cow. The Mortgage Bankers Association replies to Elisa finally. All right. Elisa Finley's February 26th, Biden's mortgage relief, higher housing prices did not adequately describe mortgage servicers and crucial role to play to ensure the stable housing market to help distressed homeowners avoid foreclosure. When was this article published? See, it's behind a paywall. When was this article published? This looks like a really old article. Oh, don't use the AI. Man, the AI is always wrong. What is that? I can't, that's so small. That's February 21st. That's the Wall Street Journal, February 2025. I'll have to look into that a little bit more. We'll talk about that next week so I can read more about it, especially so I can get around the paywalls, and I'll tell you what it all means. But, you know, a lot of people got mortgage relief during the pandemic. They were able to offset their mortgage payments because of, like, during the pandemic, people were like, oh, we can do a freeze on your mortgage. But what they thought was going to happen was they were going to take those payments and put them to the end of the loan. So if you had a 30-year loan, you had been paying for 5 years, you took 5 months off of your mortgage, they would tack those 5 months to the end of your loan, which is true. They could do that. And sometimes it was even up to a year, even longer than that. So they took that year and put it to the end of your mortgage loan. But if you decided to sell your house and you took that year off and you're selling it, that whole year of mortgage payments is taken out from the sale of your home. Yes, it would have been taken out at the end of your loan if you decided to stay that full 30 years. But if you decided to sell your home, that big chunk of change, let's just say it was $2,000, that whole year and a half is going to be taken out of the proceeds of the sale of your home. A lot of people did not realize that. They were like, oh, well, that just is not fair. Well, the mortgage company's got to make their money. They didn't get money for a year and a half. You're selling the house, they're going to take their money. So some people have been surprised by that. Debbie Brady says the poll results on whether they think the Florida housing market will crash. 49% says yes. 21% says no. 20% says they're not sure. And 10% said, only 10% said investment companies will buy them. And you know what? I think you guys are smart, because investment companies one thing they love is to make money. And even though Florida is a destination spot and it's a high turnover as far as like people coming in, vacationing and leaving, it may not be the smartest investment, especially as we see more tornadoes, hurricanes, like, you know, somebody mentioned earlier. It may not be worth the risk for them, especially if they can't get the proper insurance, and the insurance costs are going to be too incredibly high. That was very smart. I have the smartest audience. Who's the first says, Kristina, tour dates to be posted on her website soon, including joining the Lollapalooza for 2025. Oh, you want me to sing? It's a fee. It's a financial thing. But here's the thing. I knew I can't sing. So that's why I wrote the lyrics. I had AI sing it because I cannot sing. And especially with this cold going on, I can't sing. Are you kidding me? So, oh, that is crazy. I should get some tour date t-shirts, have them made. You know, like everybody could say it's a tariff is the fee, and then have a picture of a tiny home. I see it. Hi, Sarah Mason. How are you? Sarah, storms are brewing her eyes. So, anybody that has a name that has a song, and I sing it to them. It is old. The mention of Biden. Yeah, that seemed like an old article to me too. They just might have revised it. Rod has a question. What do you think the pros and cons are of introducing 40-year mortgages? I've heard this could happen. So actually, Rod, this has come up quite a bit over the last couple years because the cost of homes have gotten up so incredibly high. But what people need to do is actually figure out how much would they save for that monthly payment to offset 10 years. The offset of 10 years for a 40-year mortgage isn't that much. You would not be saving that much. And those costs will catch up to you. If you were monthly payment sensitive, those costs are going to catch up to you with the cost of insurance and taxes, especially if homes continue to rise. You're paying a lot more interest over those 40 years as well. I would venture to say the 40 to 50-year mortgage is not off the table. I think for some people it probably could work. I don't think it's the best bet for anybody. All that's going to do is drive up the price of houses, because now people have more financial leverage because they can spread that payment over time even longer. So if you can have more time to spread that payment over time over longer, that means that the homes are going to end up going up in price. That's what they say would happen with 30-year fixed rate mortgage, is that it allowed people more leverage to buy more house because they could spread those payments over time. So the prices ended up going up quicker because of it. That's what some people say. The knowers of all, they. Yeah, somebody said, a long story short, said the housing would double. Yep. I don't know. I don't think it's a great idea. I didn't like the cost of cars today is absolutely insane. My husband and I just bought a car because his truck finally took a dump. It was 10 years old. I don't even know how many miles I had on it, but it been rode hard. That truck had been through it many times. So we had to buy a new car, and it's insanity to me. It's absolutely crazy. And then when we're sitting down, like, to me, because I haven't bought a car in years, but they were like, oh, well, you can do a 5-year, a 7-year, like like in my brain, I'm like, 7-year loans. That's why cars have gotten so expensive, because you could lay those payments over 7 to 10 years. That's why they keep going up in price, because they give you these financial options that make your payments small. And then they make more money as far as like interest rates. And then you have this car that's constantly, like, after 10 years, cars after 10 years are like, they're struggling, you're paying for a lot of repairs and stuff. I think that once people decided to start financing cars for that even longer, that's what made car prices increase so much money. Extend and pretend. That's a great quote, Shane. Extend and pretend. Yeah, I think a lot of people like to pretend that they can afford those cars. I don't know how people afford $60,000 cars. Like, you buy a house for that amount of money. Insanity. Who's up first says, we need to hope. There's no hope. Give us first-time home buyer hope. We need weekly moment of hope. I'm going to give you hope. Here it is. And this is what I've been talking about, and I will continue to talk about on my channel. I always like to stick it to the man. And one of the ways that most people don't understand is that we don't have to look at home buying as the traditional 3-bedroom, 2-bath, stick-built little home with the 2.5 kids and the dog, blah, blah, blah. We need to look at doing it ourselves. We need to tell our kids, buy yourself a piece of land, and over time improve that piece of land, and then get a structure on it so you do not have to pay rent. In many places, if you have a piece of land and you can put an RV on there, you could put a tiny home on there. Manufactured homes are inexpensive. You can buy a foreclosed manufactured home and have it delivered to your site, and you could have that whole entire setup done for you. So you get the land for $20,000. You end up, doing all the improvements that you need on there in a house, and you have everything there for less than $50,000. That is entirely possible. But a lot of people turn their nose up to it because it's not a traditional house. We got to change the framework of what the first-time home is. The first-time home is your stepping stone. It's that piece of land that you have, the house that isn't your dream house, but it's a financial investment that you're not having to pay rent for, so you can find and save for that dream house in the future. That is your first step. Instead of your first home being an actual house, be something that you have to kind of put your blood, sweat, and tears into it so that you can buy a house in the future, and you're not renting from big investors. They want you to think it's too difficult to do this. They want you to think renting is the only way, and they're going to give you the nice fancy thing just at your budget. So that way you constantly are in that rental cycle. You got to step away from that and say, no, I don't need something fancy and new every single 2 years or 3 years. I need something that I can start off with. It's not going to be my dream property. It's not going to be my dream house, but it will help me save for the future. And it will be an investment for the future. You can take that piece of land and turn it into something that either you rent out to your landlord in the future, so you have now an income producing property, or you can use that as, a stepping stone, use that piece of land to build your own dream house. You hire the contractors, you hire the draftsman. You don't have to hire a specific builder. You become your own builder. And there's plenty of companies that will help you do that as well. Out of the system. You have to think out of the system, out of what we've been taught and know how things work. You can do it, and you can save hundreds of thousands of dollars over a 10-year period. I was looking at a house, and I was comparing the cost of a house and a tiny home, and you would save almost $200,000 over a 10-year period if you decided just to buy a piece of land instead of trying to buy a house right away. With the taxes, the insurance, the fees, the HOA fees, all these things add up, maintenance. You would be better off living on a piece of land with a tiny home than you would be buying your first house. So there's some hope for you. Island Knight says, question, some pickups and SUVs cost over $100,000. Will there be mortgages for them too? Can you imagine if they did a 30-year fixed rate car loan? Vehicles would skyrocket in price because people could take those payments and lay them over time. And the cost of trucks would, or any vehicle would go up so incredibly high because they could, you know? Yep. Smoosh Star says, question, tell us if the tariffs affect your vehicle purchase. Give us real life news. Well, I'm a real estate agent, so I'm not going to talk about tariffs on cars, but anything that most of our cars, I mean, I'm just going to touch on it. Most of our cars, a lot of the parts are made in other countries, so they're still imported pieces. Even if it's 100% American-made car, a lot of those parts, steel pieces come from other countries, so that will increase the cost of your American-made car, even if it's not, you know, a Honda or a, you know, Kia or whatever. You know, it's going to affect all car companies. So leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. Gotta take a little shippy ship. Guys, I want to share something with you. I'm kind of out of sorts. I've had a dog for 17 years. Me and my husband rescued this dog. He was highly abused. He was in bad shape. We actually thought he was going to die when we got him. And now he's hit the end of the road. So we have an appointment this Wednesday to let our little dog go. His name's Dom the Pom. I didn't think it was going to affect me like this, but I wanted to show you this dog because he's been a great dog and he's been a family dog to us. He helped raise my girls. And he's hit the end. So on Wednesday, we're going to let him go. And I just wanted to share him because I've never shared him on the stream. And I think of you guys as family, and he's been one of our family members. And he's going to say his goodbye. So we've been giving him steaks. Yesterday, he got McDonald's. He had his McDonald's egg McMuffin. We're trying to give him everything that he hasn't been allowed to eat because he has bad kidney function. So everything he hasn't been allowed to eat for the last several years, we're giving it to him today. So everybody think of my little dog on Wednesday, 4:00 in the afternoon. We say goodbye to our little dog, Dom the Pom. And he has been a great friend to all of us. So I didn't want to leave on a sour note, but I didn't want to not give him a little bit of sunshine and a little bit of recognition because he's been a fantastic dog. He really has. So anyways, if you want to share this really exciting stream with everybody and share a little story of my dog, Dom the Pom, you can share this live stream with anybody anywhere you listen to podcasts. So if you wanted to go to Kristina, Real Estate for Everyone, you can share that on all your social media sites right there. Eddie wants you to remind you that you can leave a review. Like, he would love you to leave a 5-star review and write something nice. And if you want to get a hold of me this week and you need to ask a question about real estate, or you're looking for a real estate agent in your area, you can go to my website, KristinaSmallhorn.com, click on any of the pink buttons and get a hold of me. Just don't ask me about my dog. I don't think I can handle it. I didn't know I was going to get all teary. I'm so sorry. I just really wanted to share him with you because he's been a fantastic dog. He lays with me every night when I'm editing all these videos for you. He's always been my nighttime companion. No matter how late it was, he's always been there. He's like, hey, if you're going to take me out in the middle of 3:00 in the morning while you're editing a video, I'm in. So yeah, he is our little fur baby. So All right, everybody. Peace be with you. I hope you have a fantastic week. Let's hope we don't have any unprecedented events. I'm going to look in further into that VA and FHA articles. I'm going to find those online and tell you more what I've learned about them. Find out if any of that is true or untrue. And I'll give you the facts straight from Kristina. All right, everybody. Have a great week. Talk to you soon. So long. Farewell. Avita Zane. Goodbye.
Kristina signing off, this dream's about to close. Tiny homes, big dreams, the wisdom she bestows. Real estate queen, always keeping us in toes. Hustle on 1,000, every vibe she shows. Goodbye, Kristina, see you next time. In a world full of chaos, you bring the prime. From modular homes to the mortgage climb. Catch you on the flip in the next rhyme. With mobile homes, dimension goes. Kristina's wisdom breaking molds. Dropping knowledge like we dropping gold. Fuel is locked in, never getting old.